Creation, preservation, and destruction have been falsely divided into moral categories. Creation is praised, preservation is tolerated, destruction is condemned. This division does not emerge from observation of reality. It emerged from fear, specifically fear of feminine power, that cannot be controlled once it is allowed to operate across all three functions. In reality, these three acts are not opposites. They are phases of the same intelligence. They are movements of one continuous force adjusting itself to changing conditions. When operated and separated, they become dysfunctional. When reunited, they become sovereign. Creation is the act most commonly associated with the feminine, yet it is the least understood. Creation is not generosity. It is not kindness. It is not optimism. Creation is the decision to introduce form into chaos. This is the willingness to risk instability in order to generate future. Every act of creation disrupts an existing equilibrium. Nothing is created without displacing something else. This is why true creation is inherently dangerous. It challenges what already exists by occupying space, consuming resources, and altering trajectories. When creation is framed as purely benevolent, it becomes irresponsible. It floods environment with excess. It overwhelms systems that lack the capacity to integrate what has been brought forth. This is why unrestrained creation leads not to abundance, but to collapse. The feminine understands this instinctively. The womb does not open endlessly. It operates in cycles. It creates, then closes. It resets. It rests. It assesses. Creation without closure is not fertility. It is infestation. Preservation is the least romanticized of these three acts, yet it is the most misunderstood. Preservation is often mistaken for stagnation or fear of change. In truth, preservation is intelligence applied to continuity. It is the recognition that not everything new is necessary, and not everything old is obsolete. Preservation determines what must be protected so that the system does not lose coherence. Feminine preservation is not nostalgia. It is not attachment. It is strategic containment. It decides what deserves time, resources, and shelter, and what does not. Preservation creates stability so that future creation does not emerge from chaos but from foundation. Without preservation, creation burns itself out. Without preservation, systems repeat the same mistakes because nothing is carried forward intact. Modern culture often frames preservation as conservative or resistant, particularly when exercised by women. This framing exists because preservation is a form of power that refuses acceleration. It says no to novelty for novelty's sake. It introduces delay. Delay frustrates systems that rely on constant expansion, consumption, and distraction. Feminine preservation disrupts momentum by insisting on coherence. Destruction is the act that has been most aggressively stripped from the feminine and reassigned as masculine, chaotic, or evil. This reassignment is strategic. Destruction is the function that prevents decay from becoming permanent. It is the act that ends cycles that no longer serve the system. Without destruction, preservation turns into hoarding and creation turns into suffocation. Destruction is not rage. It is not revenge. It isn't impulse violence. True destruction is quiet, decisive, and final. It removes what cannot be integrated or corrected. It clears off space for future creation without dragging the past forward as unresolved weight. In ecosystems, destructions happen through fire, flood, predation, and death. These are not punishments, they are resets. The feminine has always held this function, which is why it has been feared. A feminine force that can create life and end it without moral collapse cannot be easily governed. It does not require justification. It responds to necessity, not approval. When distraction is removed from the feminine, it does not disappear. It re-emerges distorted, uncontrolled, and chaotic. Suppressed distraction always returns as collapse. These three acts are not consequential or sequential in a simple loop. They overlap. They inform each other. Creation carries within it the knowledge of eventual destruction. Preservation operates with the awareness of what must one day end. Destruction clears space with awareness of what will eventually be born again. This integrated intelligence is what makes feminine power architectural rather than reactive. When societies fracture these functions across different authorities, imbalance follows. Creation is celebrated without accountability. Preservation is mocked or ignored. Destruction is outsourced to crisis. This produces cycles of excess, decay, and emergency rather than intentional transition. Feminine systems do not outsource destruction, they integrate it. This integration is what makes feminine power appear cold and unfeeling to those raised on moral binaries. Creation, preservation, and destruction are not judged emotionally. They are applied contextually. The question is never is it good or bad. The question is, does this sustain or destabilize the whole? In relationships, this intelligence manifests as the ability to create bonds, preserve connection, and end involvement without self-betrayal. Many relationships collapse because one or more of these acts is forbidden. Endless creation without boundaries leads to enmeshment. Preservation without honesty leads to resentment. Distraction without clarity leads to trauma. When all three acts are available, relationships become adaptive rather than fragile. In leadership, the same principle applies. Leaders who only create initiatives burn through people. Leaders who only preserve systems become obsolete. Leaders who only destroy leave nothing usable behind. Feminine leadership integrates all three without apology. It launches when conditions are right. It protects what works. It dismantles what no longer does, even if that dismantling is unpopular. This is why feminine power does not cling to legacy. Legacy is a preservation fetish without context. The feminine preserves what remains alive. What is dead is allowed to end. This makes feminine authority appear ruthless to those invested in permanence over relevance. But relevance is the only measure that matters to the living systems. Spiritual systems fail most dramatically here. They glorify creation as manifestation, preservation as tradition, and deny destruction entirely. Death is reframed as transition. Endings are softened. Nothing is allowed to truly finish. This produces spiritual stagnation. Teachings pile up without resolution. Beliefs accumulate without pruning. Initiations lose potency because nothing is truly lost. The House of the Trident restores destruction as a sacred feminine act, not because destruction is desirable, but because it is necessary. A system that cannot end is already dying. A power that cannot destroy cannot protect what matters. Creation, preservation, and destruction are all acts of timing. None of them is always correct. Creation too early will destabilize. Preservation too long will suffocate. Destruction too soon will waste potential. Feminine intelligence lies in knowing what act the moment requires and is executing it without hesitation once that determination is made. This is why feminine power does not argue its decisions. Explanation invites negotiation. Negotiation delays action. Delay at the wrong moment turns correction into chaos. The feminine decides and moves, trust an outcome over approval. When these three acts are unified, power becomes sustainable. It is no longer needs constant reinforcement. It no longer relies on dominance or submission. It operates through alignment with reality rather than control over people. This is why feminine power has always been mischaracterized as mysterious. It is not mysterious. It is simply not linear. Linear thinkers want beginnings and endings they can predict. Feminine systems operate through cycles that respond to conditions rather than shadows. This frustrates those who want guarantees. There are no guarantees in living systems. There is only responsiveness. To embody creation, preservation, and destruction as feminine act is to accept responsibility for consequence. You cannot hide behind good intentions. You cannot outsource endings. You cannot cling to what has expired. This level of power demands maturity because it removes the comfort of innocence. Many people want empowerment without consequence. They want creation without responsibility. They want preservation without effort. They want destruction without accountability. Feminine power does not offer this. It offers sovereignty, which includes the weight of decision. This teaching is not about becoming destructive, it's about becoming whole. When destruction is integrated, it is no longer needs to erupt. When preservation is honored, creation does not overwhelm. When creation is intentional, destruction does not feel like failure. The trident holds these three acts because reality demands all three. Remove one and the structure fails. Honor all three and power becomes durable. This is why the goddess is never only mother, never only protector, never only destroyer. She is all three, governed by law, applied through timing. Any depiction that removes one of these functions is propaganda, not theology. The House of the Trident teaches this, not as philosophy, but as operational law. You are always creating something. You are always preserving something. You are always destroying something. The only question is whether you are doing so consciously or letting the system decay around you. Sovereignty begins when you stop moralizing these acts and start mastering them. Creation brings future. Preservation protects coherence. Destruction clears the way. All three are feminine. All three are necessary. None of them apologize.